Family. It's the one thing we're supposed to lean on, the rock we cling to when the world gets rough. But what happens when that rock crumbles? When the hands you've held turn cold and sharpen into knives? Imagine sitting at your dinner table, laughing with the people you love most, only to realize they've been plotting your ruin, smiling through the lies. Tonight, on Crime Mysteries Uncovered, we're not just telling stories, we're ripping the mask off 2025's most gut-wrenching betrayals. Three cases so raw, so twisted, they'll seep into your bones and linger long after the lights go out. We've got an inheritance war in Ohio that turned a snowy farm into a slaughterhouse. A DNA test in California that didn't just break a family, it tore it apart limb by limb. And a Florida grandma who swapped her cookie tray for a shotgun, proving vengeance doesn't age. These aren't fairy tales. They're real. They're fresh, and they're coming for your attention. Buckle up, because this is few minutes of true crime you won't dare look away from. Are you ready to step into the darkness? Let's dive in, because once you start, there's no turning back. Welcome to Crime Mysteries Uncovered, the place where shadows don't stay buried. This isn't your average true crime fix. This is where we hunt down the mysteries that keep you up at night, where we chase the threads of the unsolved and the unthinkable until they unravel in front of you. We're talking real-life nightmares, served up with the kind of storytelling that grabs you by the throat and doesn't let go. Picture this: a team of us digging through police reports, poring over witness whispers, and piecing together the puzzles that detectives are still scratching their heads over, all so you can sit back and soak in the chills. Whether you're the type who's got a true crime podcast on loop, or you're just here because you stumbled into the rabbit hole, you found your people. We're not here to spoon-feed you fluff. We're here to drag the truth into the light, no matter how ugly it gets. And trust me, it gets wilder than you could ever imagine. So hit that subscribe button, grab your coffee, or something stronger, and let's peel back the layers of human nature's darkest corners together. Because on this channel, the shadows talk and we're listening. Now let's get to why you're really here. In today's video, we're cracking open 2025's freshest wounds. Three cases that exploded onto the scene this year, each one a ticking time bomb of family gone wrong. First up, Ohio, a state of rolling fields and quiet towns, until a son's greed painted a family farm red. Picture a widower's fortune snatched away by a new wife, and a son who'd rather swing a hammer than lose a dime. Then we're heading west to California, where a husband thought he knew his life, until a Christmas DNA test rewrote it in blood. His kids, not his. His wife, not breathing. The fallout? A garage turned butcher shop. And finally, Florida, where sunshine meets shadow, and a grandma decided her son-in-law's betrayal deserved more than a scolding. She traded her apron for a 12 gauge, and the blast still echoes. These aren't just crimes. They're implosions of trust, loyalty, and love, blown apart by secrets too big to stay buried. We're diving deep, every twist, every lie, every drop of blood pulling you further in. So stick with us, because this isn't just a story, it's a descent. What do you say? Ready to see how far the rabbit hole goes? Let's find out together. Case 1, the Ohio inheritance slaughter. January 2025, rural Preble County, Ohio. Picture a sprawling farm tucked away in the heart of the Midwest. Acres of frost-kissed fields stretching under a sky so gray it feels like it's holding its breath. The Carter family farm was a quiet slice of Americana, blanketed in fresh snow that glittered like a promise of peace, until that peace shattered beyond repair. James Carter, 62, was the kind of man who wore his calluses like badges of honor. A widower who'd spent decades coaxing life from this land, cattle lowing in the barns, crops bowing to his will, a nest egg swelling to $500,000 through grit and thrift. His son, Michael, 38, lived just a mile down the road, a mechanic with oil-stained hands, a quick temper, and a bourbon bottle that seemed glued to his shadow. On January 12th, that idyllic farm turned into a crime scene that'd make your stomach turn. James was found sprawled in his barn, skull caved in like a cracked melon, a bloody hammer tossed carelessly in the hay, like someone wanted it to be found. Michael was the one who dialed 911, voice breaking, sobbing. Someone killed Dad. But here's where the story twists. Those tears dried up faster than a puddle in July when police dusted that hammer and found Michael's fingerprints staring back at them. Was this grief or a performance? Let's peel this back, because what happened here isn't just murder. It's a family implosion that's still sending shockwaves. Rewind to Christmas 2024, a holiday that should have been warm with twinkling lights and shared stories. But for the Carters, it was the spark that lit the fuse. James had remarried 6 months prior, a surprise to everyone who knew him. Enter Linda, 45, a nurse with a smile that could melt ice and eyes that, depending who you asked, either twinkled with kindness or glinted with something sharper. She'd met James at the hospital during a routine checkup, a whirlwind romance that ended with a ring and a move to the farm. Michael? He wasn't buying it. According to a neighbor, Tom Hensley, interviewed by the Dayton Daily News, Michael called her a gold digger, loud enough for half the county to hear, said she'd wormed her way into Dad's life, his home, and worst of all, his will. That will was the ticking bomb. Redrafted on January 5th, just a week before the murder, it left everything, land, livestock, that $500,000 nest egg, to Linda. Michael? Cut out completely. Not a penny, not an acre, not even a nod to the son who'd grown up hauling hay on that very soil. Was it rage that drove him to that barn? Or something darker bubbling under the surface? Hold on to that question, because this rabbit hole's about to get muddy. Let's paint the picture of Michael Carter for a minute. He wasn't the golden child, never had been. Neighbors described him as a man who wore his frustrations like a second skin. He dropped out of college, bounced between odd jobs, and settled into fixing cars. Good with his hands, bad with his mouth. That temper? Legendary. Bar fights, smashed windshields, a restraining order from an ex back in 19. And the bourbon? Well, it wasn't just a drink, it was a crutch. Friends said he'd been spiraling since his mom died 5 years back, leaving James to navigate widowhood alone. Michael saw Linda as an intruder, not just in the family, but in the legacy he thought was his birthright. According to his buddy Jake, who spoke off-record to a local reporter, Michael ranted about Linda nonstop after the wedding. She's gonna take it all. Man, Dad's blind, she's playing him. So when that will hit, it wasn't just a betrayal, it was a gut punch to a man already teetering on the edge. But did he plan it? Or did that hammer just find his hand in a blackout moment of fury? Stick with me, we're getting there. Now, let's talk about James Carter, the man at the center of this storm. He wasn't flashy, wore the same flannel jacket for a decade, drove a pickup older than Michael. But he was proud, stubborn, the kind of guy who'd rather freeze than ask for help. Losing his wife, Mary, to cancer had hollowed him out, left him quiet, distant. Linda brought color back. Neighbors saw him whistling again, fixing up the porch, even talking about retiring. Was she his second chance or his blind spot? Because here's the thing. James wasn't naive. He'd built that fortune with a sharp eye. Why cut Michael out so cold? Some say Linda whispered in his ear, turned him against his own blood. Others think James saw Michael's drinking, his volatility, and decided he couldn't be trusted. Either way, that will wasn't just paper, it was a declaration, and it lit a match under a family already soaked in gasoline. January 12th rolls around. Cold, dark, the kind of night where the wind cuts through you. Detectives pieced it together later. James was in the barn around 10 p.m., tinkering with a tractor. Michael's truck was spotted rumbling up the drive, witnessed by old Mrs. Pritchard across the road, who never misses a thing. No one heard a fight, no screams, just silence. Then that frantic 911 call at 10:47. "Someone killed Dad!" Michael wailed. Deputies arrived to a scene straight out of a nightmare. James face down, blood pooling in the straw, skull shattered like glass. The hammer, a heavy rusted thing from the workbench, now slick with red. Michael was pacing outside, reeking of liquor, eyes wild. "I found him like that," he swore. But those prints, clear as day, told a different story. And then the text surfaced. One to his girlfriend, sent at 8 p.m. "He's screwing me over, won't let it stand." Another at 9:15, "Heading to the farm, done talking." Intent? Or just a drunk rant? You tell me, because this is where the plot thickens. Enter Linda, stage left, and oh, does she stir the pot. She told police she was working the night shift at Preble Memorial, 20 miles away, said she didn't hear about James until deputies called her at 11:30. Airtight, right? Not so fast. Hospital logs show she clocked out at 8:45 p.m., plenty of time to get home. And then there's the gas station receipt, 9 p.m., a shell just 5 miles from the farm, time-stamped with her credit card. She bought a coffee and a pack of gum, like it was any other night. When cops pressed her, she stumbled. I stopped on my way home, must have forgotten. Forgotten? With her husband dead an hour later? Suspicious doesn't even cover it. And get this, that receipt wasn't crumpled in her purse, it was tucked in her glove box, like she wanted it found. Did she know Michael was headed there? Did she nudge him toward that hammer, or swing it herself and let him take the fall? The possibilities are piling up, and we're not done digging. By January 20th, Michael's in cuffs, charged with first-degree murder. He's screaming he's innocent, says Linda framed him, that she wanted James gone to cash in quick. His lawyer's leaning hard on that angle. My client's a scapegoat. Look at her timeline. Meanwhile, Linda's playing widow, tears at the funeral, black dress pristine, telling anyone who'll listen Michael's a monster who snapped. But the town's split down the middle. Half see a son betrayed, robbed of his inheritance by a scheming stepmom who twisted James's heart. The other half? They see a greedy drunk who couldn't handle losing control, a man who'd rather kill than compromise. Preble County Sheriff staying mum, investigations ongoing. They mutter, but whispers are spreading like wildfire. A bloody footprint in the barn, too small for Michael's size 12 boots, too fresh to be old. Whose is it? Linda's? A third player we haven't met? And what about the missing security cam footage? James had a system, but the hard drive was wiped clean. Accident or cover-up? Let's step back for a second, because this isn't just about who held the hammer. It's about a family rotting from the inside. James, clinging to a new start, blind to the fault lines. Michael, drowning in resentment, seeing his future slip through his fingers. Linda, the wild card, angel or architect of this chaos. The evidence points at those cracks in Linda's story, text gnawing. The truck. Was he played, a pawn in her game? Or did he write this tragedy in bourbon and blood? And that footprint, what's it hiding? Locals say the farm's cursed now. Cattle won't graze near the barn, lights flicker at night. Superstition, sure, but it's hard to shake the chill. What's your take? Is Michael the villain or just the fall guy? Drop it in the comments, because this case, it's a puzzle with pieces still missing, and we're only getting started. Case 2, the California DNA deception. February 2025, San Diego, California, a city of sun-soaked beaches, swaying palms, and postcard-perfect suburbs. Tucked into one of those tidy little neighborhoods was Paul Marino, 47, a landscaper who lived for the hum of his mower and the quiet rhythm of his family life. His wife, Lisa, 44, was the glue. Warm, sharp-witted, always juggling PTA meetings and soccer schedules for their kids, Ethan, 14, and Mia, 11. From the outside, it was picture perfect. A white picket fence dream glowing under the golden California sun. But that dream? It shattered on February 3rd, when Lisa vanished without a trace. Paul told the cops she'd stormed out after a blowout fight. Door slamming, tires squealing, gone. For 5 days, the story held, until a jogger on La Jolla Boulevard tripped over a nightmare in a dumpster. Lisa Marino, dismembered, arms, legs, torso, scattered like discarded parts of a broken doll. No head, just a gruesome puzzle dumped under the palm trees. And Paul? When San Diego PD hauled him in, he didn't flinch, sat there stone-faced like the world hadn't just imploded. What turned this quiet family man into a butcher? Buckle up, because this isn't just a murder. It's a betrayal so jagged it'll cut you too. Let's rewind to Christmas 2024, when the first crack split this family wide open. Picture the scene, the Moreno living room, lights twinkling on a lopsided tree, Ethan and Mia tearing into presents while Paul and Lisa sip coffee, laughing at the chaos. Mia, all giggles, hands Paul a gift, a DNA test kit, one of those trendy ancestry things. Find out if we're secretly Vikings, Dad, she teased. Paul shrugged, humored her, sent off the swab with a grin. January 15th, the results pinged his inbox, and that grin, it melted into something hollow. Ethan and Mia weren't his. Not a drop of his blood ran through them. Instead, the match pointed to Tony Marino, Paul's older brother, 49, an ex-con with a rap sheet longer than a freeway and a habit of crashing on their couch whenever life kicked him down. According to a family friend who later spoke to KPBS, Paul sat there, staring at that screen, hands shaking, world tilting. His kids, his loud, messy, beautiful kids, were a lie. Lisa's face when he confronted her on February 1st? Priceless, or gut-wrenching, depending where you stand. She didn't deny it. "It's been 10 years, Paul," she whispered. 10 years with Tony, under his roof, behind his back. What does that do to a man? Stay with me, we're about to find out. Paul Moreno wasn't a loud guy. Neighbors called him the gentle giant of the block. Tall, broad, with hands rough from years of shaping lawns and lives. He'd met Lisa in '98 at a dive bar. Her quick laugh, his steady calm, a match that clicked. They built a life brick by brick. Ethan born in 10, Mia in 13, a mortgage, a minivan, the works. But Tony, he was the shadow Paul couldn't shake. Older by 2 years, Tony was the wild card, charming when he wanted, trouble when he didn't. Did time for armed robbery in '06, floated in and out of their lives after. Paul always took him in. He's family, he'd say, even when Lisa rolled her eyes. Friends noticed tension, Tony lingering too long, Lisa softening around him. Was it obvious? Maybe not, until that DNA test ripped the blinders off. According to a coworker, Paul started unraveling after January 15. Quiet turned to brooding, beers turned to whiskey. He kept saying, "I don't know who I am anymore," the guy recalled. Lisa? She pulled back, averted eyes, late nights at work. Tony, bolted by January 20, last seen at a Greyhound station, duffel in hand. The fuse was lit, but who struck the match? Lisa Moreno, she's the heart of this, or maybe the fracture. A paralegal with a knack for keeping chaos in line, she was the mom who baked for bake sales and the wife who balanced the books. But there was another side, restless, secretive. Friends say she'd changed in the last decade, sharper edges, distant spells. That affair with Tony, it wasn't a fling. 10 years, think about that. Ethan's first steps, Mia's first words, all while she and Tony wove their secret. How'd it start? Some guess during Tony's 14 stint at the house. Paul working long hours, Tony fresh from parole, Lisa vulnerable, or maybe just bored. Others say earlier, during Paul's late-night shifts in 11. No one knows. Lisa didn't leave a diary. But that February 1st confrontation? A neighbor overheard it. Paul shouting, "How could you do this?" Lisa crying, "I never meant to hurt you." Did she mean it? Or was it a last-ditch play to save herself? Because 2 days later, she was gone, and not by choice. February 3, the night it all exploded. Paul told police it was a fight. She yelled, I yelled, she left. Simple, right? Except Lisa didn't take her car, her purse, her phone. No one saw her storm out. No squealing tires, no slammed door, just silence. 5 days later, that jogger, 26-year-old Sarah Klein, found the truth off La Jolla Boulevard, a dumpster behind a strip mall reeking of rot. Lisa's remains, arms severed at the shoulders, legs hacked at the thighs, torso split open, no head, cops still haven't found it. The scene screamed rage, jagged cuts, no finesse, like someone unleashed a decade of hurt in one frenzy. Paul's garage? That's where it happened. Cops found blood spatter on the walls, a hacksaw caked in gore, bleach stains pooling on the concrete. Paul didn't deny it. Sat in interrogation, head down, muttering, "I just lost it." Lost it? That's an understatement. But here's the gut punch. Lisa's phone, recovered from the scene, had a text to Tony, sent at 6 p.m., hours before she died. He knows. Help. Tony never replied. Did he abandon her, or was he there holding the saw? You tell me, because this is where it gets murky. San Diego PD moved fast. Paul was in cuffs by February 9th, charged with murder. His story? A blackout. I don't remember, he said over and over. The evidence didn't care. Blood on his boots, DNA under his nails, a neighbor's ring cam catching him dragging trash bags to his truck at 2 a.m. Premeditated? Maybe not. The cuts were sloppy. The cover-up panicked. But that text to Tony, it's the splinter that won't settle. Tony Marino, last seen January 20th, is a ghost. No phone pings, no credit card hits. Cops tracked him to that bus station, then nothing. Theories swirl. He ran to Mexico, holed up with old prison buddies, maybe even watched Paul unravel from afar. But that help, did Lisa expect him to save her? Or was he part of the plan, goading Paul, then bailing? A witness claims they saw a man matching Tony's build near the house on February 2. Hoodie, hunched, gone by dawn. Coincidence? Or a missing piece? Drop your guess below, because Tony's shadow looms large. And the kids, Ethan and Mia, what's left for them? Orphaned overnight, shuttled to Lisa's sister in Riverside. Ethan's a lanky teen, quiet like his dad, or the man he thought was his dad. Mia's the spark, Curious, bright, the one who started this with that damn DNA kit. Now they're collateral, caught in a lie they didn't weave, a lineage that's a living wound. Social workers say they're shell-shocked. Ethan won't talk. Mia keeps asking, why'd Daddy do it? Why indeed? Was Paul the villain, unhinged by betrayal, turning love to slaughter? Or was he a pawn, pushed by Lisa's deceit, Tony's cowardice? The garage tells one story. Blood and bleach don't lie. But that text, that missing head, Tony's vanish. They whisper something else. San Diego PD's still chasing leads. Divers combing the bay, tips flooding in. Who's the real monster here? Paul, Tony, or the secret that broke them all? This one's a maze, and we're still lost in it. Let's linger here, because this isn't over. Picture Paul in that cell, staring at the wall, replaying a decade of dinners, soccer games, bedtime stories, all fake. Picture Lisa's last moments. Did she fight, beg, scream for Tony? Picture those kids waking up to a world where family means nothing. The dumpster's been scrubbed, the garage sealed, but the questions, they're piling up. What did Tony know? Where's he hiding? And that head, why take it? A trophy? A message? Locals say the Moreno house feels haunted now. Lights flicker, kids avoid the street. Superstition? Sure, but it fits. What do you think? Paul's rage, Tony's guilt, or something we haven't seen? Hit the comments, because this case, it's a wound that won't heal, and we're not done bleeding. Case 3. The Florida Matriarch's Revenge. February 2025, Tampa, Florida. A city where the sun burns hot and the air hums with life, where retirees sip sweet tea on porches and the Gulf breeze carries whispers of secrets. Evelyn Harper, 73, was the beating heart of her little corner of this world. A grandma straight out of a storybook. She baked cookies that melted in your mouth, spoiled her grandkids with dollar store treasures, and lived for the clatter of bingo night at the community hall. Picture her, silver hair pulled into a bun, apron dusted with flour, a smile that could warm the coldest day. Until February 17th, when that smile vanished, and Evelyn walked into her son-in-law Tom Reese's garage with a 12-gauge shotgun in her hands. One pull of the trigger, and Tom, 49, was sprawled on the oil-stained concrete, chest blown open, life snuffed out before the echo even faded. Evelyn didn't run, didn't hide. She dialed 911 herself, voice steady as steel. I shot him. He had it coming. Cold as ice, sharp as a blade. What turned this sweet old lady into a killer? Stick around, because this isn't just a shooting. It's a slow-burn betrayal that exploded into something feral, and it's got teeth that'll sink deep. Let's wind the clock back, because Evelyn Harper wasn't always a figure of vengeance. She was a widow of 15 years, tough as the Florida pines, raising her daughter Karen alone after her husband's heart gave out in '09. Karen was her pride, smart, steady, a nurse who married Tom Reese in 14, giving Evelyn 2 grandkids to dote on, Tommy Jr. 8 and Lily 6. Evelyn lived for them, knitted blankets, slipped them extra cookies, saved every penny of her Social Security to help the family. Tom, he was the charmer, tall, broad grin, a contractor who built decks and dreams. At first, he was golden. Karen glowed, the kids adored him, Evelyn called him son. But charm's a mask, and Tom's was slipping. By 2023, the marriage was fraying. Karen confided in friends about late nights, empty bank accounts, a husband who'd turned distant and dark. Evelyn didn't see it or didn't want to. She kept wiring cash, $40,000 over 2 years, according to Tampa PD's initial report, thinking it was for Karen's mortgage, the kids' school fees. But it wasn't. Tom was bleeding her dry, and the truth was about to light a match under this matriarch. Tom Reese, he's the spark in this powder keg. A man who wore confidence like cologne, he'd talk your ear off about his latest job, his big plans. But behind the swagger, a mess. Gambling wasn't a hobby, it was an addiction. Slots at the Hard Rock, horses at Tampa Bay Downs, online poker when the cash ran low. Friends say it started small, weekend bets, a few hundred here and there. But by 24, he was drowning. Then there was the mistress, Candy Lopez, 32, a bartender in Orlando with bleached hair and a taste for the high life. Tom met her at a bar in 22, and soon he was splitting time between Tampa and her cramped apartment, blowing Evelyn's money on drinks, hotel rooms, a flashy necklace Candy flaunted on Instagram. Karen suspected, found receipts, late-night texts, but Tom laughed it off, gaslit her into silence. Evelyn, clueless, until February 15th, when the curtain ripped wide open. She'd stopped by the bank to check her savings, nearly tapped out. A call to Karen confirmed it. Mom, I haven't seen a dime. Bank records showed transfers straight to Tom's account. She confronted him that night, and his smirk, that was the last straw. Mind your business, old lady, he sneered. 2 days later, boom. Evelyn Harper wasn't frail. Don't let the bingo nights fool you. She'd grown up on a farm, knew her way around tools, kept that 12 gauge from her husband's hunting days oiled and ready. Neighbors saw her as a rock, helped with groceries, fixed fences, but there was steel in her spine. That February 15th confrontation, it didn't just sting, it shattered her. According to a friend, Doris, who spoke to WFLA News, Evelyn came home shaking, not with fear but fury. He's stealing from my babies, she said, voice low. Doris thought she'd cool off. Evelyn always did, but this time, she didn't. Next day, she was asking around, casual-like, about Tom's schedule. When's he at the garage? He's still working late? And that shotgun? Neighbors saw her eyeing it, running her hands over the barrel like she was remembering how it felt. Was she planning? Or just simmering, waiting for the pot to boil over? Because on February 17th, it did, and the fallout was deafening. February 17, hot, sticky, the kind of night where the air presses down like a threat. Tom was in his garage, a cluttered cave of tools and half-finished projects, tinkering with a busted lawnmower. Evelyn pulled up in her old Buick, 5:30 p.m., sun dipping low. No one saw her walk in, but they heard the blast. 5:42 p.m., a crack that split the neighborhood. Tom hit the floor, chest a ruin, blood pooling with the oil stains. Evelyn stepped out, shotgun still smoking, and dialed 911. I shot him. He had it coming. Cops arrived in minutes, found her sitting on the porch, hands folded, calm as a Sunday morning. The scene? Brutal. Shotgun pellets embedded in the wall, Tom's body crumpled like a rag doll. Her story? Self-defense. He came at me with a wrench, she said, pointing to a tool on the ground. Smudged, no prints. But here's the twist. Neighbors swear they heard no argument, just silence, then the boom. And that wrench? Too clean, too convenient. Did Tom lunge, or did Evelyn stage it? You tell me, because this is where the cracks start showing. The motive? Money and betrayal, pure and simple, or so it seems. That $40,000 wasn't just cash, it was Evelyn's lifeline, her legacy for Tommy and Lily. Tom took it, spent it, laughed in her face. Tampa PD dug into his accounts, found withdrawals matching trips to Orlando, bets at the track, payments to Candy. Karen broke down when she heard. I didn't know, Mom, she sobbed. But Evelyn knew now, and it burned. She told cops he was killing us slow. I stopped him fast. Self-defense, though? That's shaky. Doris says Evelyn hinted at more. He wouldn't stop, said he'd take the house next. And Candy? She's talking. Claims Evelyn called her February 16th, voice icy. You're next if you don't disappear. Premeditated? Neighbors back it up. She'd been tracking Tom, plotting moves. But then there's Tom's side. Friends say he was scared of Evelyn, called her unhinged after the confrontation. Was he the hunter or the hunted? This one's a tangle, and we're not out yet. Evelyn's free on bond, trial's set for June. She's back home, baking again, but the cookies don't reach the neighbors anymore. Karen's a wreck, torn between grief and guilt, raising the kids alone. Tommy and Lily, they don't understand. Where's Daddy? Why's Nana mad? The town's buzzing. Half call Evelyn a hero, a grandma who drew a line in the sand. Half see a monster, a vigilante who snapped. Cops are digging. Candy's story, that wrench, a blurry security cam from a block away showing Evelyn's Buick circling earlier. And get this, a shotgun shell casing found in her trash, dated February 16th like she'd practiced. Accident or a smoking gun? Tampa PD's tight-lipped, chasing leads. Candy's gone quiet, maybe scared off. Hero or villain? It's not black and white. Evelyn's a storm and we're caught in it. Let's sit with this because it's heavy. Picture Evelyn, alone in that house, counting pennies she'll never get back, hearing Tom's smirk echo. Picture Tom, gambling away a family, thinking he'd never pay. Picture those kids, caught in the blast radius, innocent but scarred. The garage is taped off, blood scrubbed, but the stain lingers. Was it justice, swift, brutal, a grandma's roar, or murder, cold, calculated, a line crossed? That shell casing, Candy's fear, Karen's tears, they're pieces of a puzzle we can't solve yet. What do you see, protector or predator? Drop it below, because this case, it's got claws and it's not letting go. And there you have it. 2025's darkest family betrayals, stripped raw and laid bare right here on Crime Mysteries Uncovered. Ohio's inheritance bloodbath, where a son's greed turned a snowy farm into a slaughterhouse. Did Michael swing that hammer, or was he just a pawn in a colder game? California's DNA nightmare, where Paul Marino's world shattered with a test result, leaving Lisa in pieces and a brother on the run, whose hands are bloodiest here. And Florida's shotgun grandma Evelyn Harper, trading her cookie tray for a 12 gauge to blast away a thief in the family. Who's the hero? Who's the monster? These aren't just stories. They're proof that the ties that bind can strangle, snap, and break us in ways we never see coming. Which one hit you hardest? Was it the chill of that Ohio barn, the gut punch of that California dumpster, or the echo of that Florida blast? Drop it in the comments. I'm dying to hear what's rattling around in your head after this wild ride. Because this is just the beginning. But here's the thing. These twisted tales don't end when the screen fades. We've only scratched the surface of 2025's shadows, and trust me, there's more lurking out there. More secrets, more blood, more mysteries begging to be cracked open. That's what Crime Mysteries Uncovered is all about. Delivering you front row seats to the chaos, the heartbreak, the moments that make you question everything you thought you knew about human nature. If Ohio's farm left you cold, if California's garage made you flinch, if Florida's grandma gave you chills, then you're one of us. You're the kind of soul who doesn't just watch true crime. You live it, breathe it, chase it. And that's why you need to hit that subscribe button right now. Because this channel, it's not just a show, it's a journey, and we're not slowing down. Why subscribe? Because Crime Mysteries Uncovered isn't like those watered-down crime reels you scroll past. It's raw, it's real, and it's relentless. Every week, we're diving deeper, unearthing cases that don't make the headlines, peeling back the layers others are too scared to touch. We're talking exclusive angles, interviews with the people who were there, documents the news skipped, theories that'll twist your mind into knots. You think Michael's stepmom is hiding more? That Tony's still out there, watching from the shadows? That Evelyn's got another shell loaded? We're not done with them, and neither are you. Subscribing means you're in the crew. You're the first to know when we drop the next bombshell, the next what the hell just happened moment that keeps you up dissecting every detail. Smash that like button too. Let us know you're feeling this, that you're ready for more. This year's just revving up. 2025's already a beast, and we're riding every twist, every turn, every scream with you. Imagine what's coming. Hidden killers in quiet towns, betrayals that cut deeper than a blade, stories so wild they'll haunt your dreams. You don't want to miss that, do you? Subscribing locks you in, rings that bell so you're never late to the party. Share this with your true crime crew, your best friend who's obsessed with cold cases, your cousin who loves a good conspiracy, that coworker who's always got a wild theory. Get them in on this, because Crime Mysteries Uncovered isn't just a channel, it's a movement. We're peeling back the shadows together, week after week, case after case, and we need you with us. Think about it. These stories aren't over. Michael's trial's pending. Will that bloody footprint flip the script? Tony's out there. Will he surface with a confession or a cover? Evelyn's free on bond. Will she bake her way to freedom or face a cell? We're not letting these go. We're tracking every update, every whisper, every twist that 2025 throws our way. Subscribing means you're not just watching, you're part of the chase. You're the ones pushing us to dig harder, to ask the questions no one else dares. Hit that button, join this family, because if these cases prove anything, it's that families where the real stakes lie. Let's keep this fire burning. Share your thoughts, spread the word, stay sharp. Until next time, this is Crime Mysteries Uncovered, signing off, but not for long. See you in the shadows.